Cool. So I'm here with Dan Bubniak, who is an implementer who started when? When did you start? Tell us about yourself.
So I started, when was it? Maybe August. I was the last boot camp, the last week of August of 2023. So maybe 18, 19 months ago, been almost a year
Wow.
and a half.
Yeah. And how
Yeah.
many clients you have now?
I'm working with, I had it on my whiteboard and I just erased everything to create space for other stuff to do.
Yeah.
I think with 22 or 23 companies right now.
Yeah. And how many did you have in your first 9 months, let's say?
Oh man, that's a good question.
I mean, no one's
Maybe
going
10.
to 10. Wow,
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, we, even from day one, I started 11, 14 years ago. And I was lucky because I had two cab franchises, so I had 80 business owners as members. So it was no problem to start EOS, um, and right from the get go. But in coaching and helping new implementers, cold calling is not an option, right?
Yeah.
Cold calling, to sit down and phone an owner and get them to agree to put their leadership team into a room for 90 minutes, is has always been, you can't do it. You got to be speaking. You have to be doing this. You have to be, but that's not going to work. So I think I want you to just tell me what you did, because it sounds like the closest thing to a strategy for our struggling new implementers in terms of a really good strategy. So what'd you do?
Yeah. So trying to think where to start. So I guess what I'll say is I kind of started like I think that most implementers start, which is the do everything mode and go out there frantically scrambling to like show up at chamber events and go to associations and sign up. I think I paid like $500 like three times to join associations. That after I went to the first event made no sense to be a part of. So I think in the first 6 months, I put maybe 50,000 miles on my car. And I just did everything.
Wow.
And and I wasn't actually getting a ton of business from any of that stuff, actually. I wasn't getting really anything from that stuff. I had gotten a client or two, but it had been from my prior network. But I think what I recognized in the beginning was just like an entrepreneur, you go and you do everything and you see what sticks. And I think the biggest thing that came out of that 6 months for me was nothing was sticking. And because I was doing so much, I had no time to actually assess that or do anything new. And so, James Clear has a concept of being in motion versus action. And this was kind of a breakthrough I had early. I recognized, so motion is doing things like planning, it's strategizing, it's learning. It feels productive, right? It feels like you're doing things. And that's what I think the first month, 6 months felt like for me. But it wasn't action. What action ultimately is doing things that lead to a result. And I think that I had a come to Jesus moment where I looked at myself in the mirror and because I said, I'm like, Dan, you're busy, right? Like you're hustling. I said, you are not in action, you're in motion. You're just doing shit to do shit, but you're not doing the right things and you're not having an honest conversation with yourself about what the right things even are. And so in that moment, Kevin, I think what I had on my EOS scorecard was all of these things, maybe six or seven sales metrics, connector meetings, events attended, et cetera. I cut all of that down to one thing, and I cut it down to conversations with business owners. Um,
Right on.
I didn't know how I was going to do that, but I knew that that was the right thing to do. I knew that the moment that I could get in front of a business owner, I was gonna build a good relationship. So that's where I started, which was I need to figure that out. Just one thing. From there, I think one of the things that I recognized kind of at that 6 month mark was I was bumping into business owners sparingly. So I took a clarity break and I wrote on my whiteboard, I said, I'm bumping into business owners sparingly. How do I make them bump into me in bulk? And that was the equation that I was trying to solve for. So I wrote down 50 things on my whiteboard, and a couple of things just stood out as things that I knew I could execute and I could do well, which was, and I'm going to caveat this with, I think the worst advice an EOS implementer could give is that there is one size fits all for how to get business. This was my thing, but I know people that are good at things that I don't do and a bunch of
Yeah.
other things. The thing that I found for me was if I was going to create, I was sick of waiting to bump into people. And so what I did was I created opportunities to make people bump into me through events. So I had this thought in my mind of, Dan, you're a business owner. You just built a natural food merchandising company. It was the darkest moment of your life. Like it was successful, but you were dark. It was lonely. You had panic attacks. There are other business owners out there who are feeling the same thing. So why not just create an opportunity, create a space where those business owners could come with no pressure and get to know each other? And while you're doing that, you're going to put yourself in the center of a bunch of business owners. So don't worry about selling them, but figure out how can you connect people on a deep level. And then all of a sudden you're in front of a bunch of business owners. So I took that concept and I started to put together casual events and I would reach out to business owners and it would have nothing to do with EOS. And it was just, hey, I'm a business owner, super lonely, super dark, right? Lots of ups, but lots of downs. I get business owners together. You interested? And I started doing that. And I think the first one, 10 people showed up, which was, I was like, oh, cool, successful. The next three, maybe like 5 people showed up, and I had the, oh shit, this isn't working moment. But I continued to iterate and listen to the people around me and how could I make this better for you? And from there, I started to do things and add speakers and just think about how I made people in the room feel better. And from there, it's really blossomed into this thing where now 40 or 50 business owners will come. And it has nothing to do with EOS, but now I'm at the center of the universe from a bunch of business owners. And so now I have a network that I can just call people up, right? And so I think, Kevin, the insight that I had, this is really just like building an EOS business is like building any business. It's how can you be scrappy? How can you put yourself at the center of business owners and really pressure test a bunch of ideas until that's going to work for you? So that's how it worked for me. But it took me, I would say, 15 months of doing the wrong things to really simplify my business, pick something, a belief that I had that I thought I could execute well, and then just go do it and fail for 6 months. But eventually, failing through it built something that and iterating got me to a place where now I have this flywheel that's working. So I'll shut up in a second and let you ask questions on that. The big takeaways for me on that is um, number one, it takes you much longer to find what's going to work for you than you anticipate. That took me 15 months. Um, Number two, for me, everyone told me to do a bunch of things that wasn't working for me. So I think that my advice to EOS implementers is to don't take advice from people on how to build your business. Think about what you're great at and what you believe you can do and go figure that out. Um,
Mhm.
and number three, like you gotta just hustle. Like you just gotta figure it out and you gotta be willing to fail. You gotta be willing to have an event that 0 people show up to, right? And you just gotta keep going until you figure out how do you get yourself at the center of the universe. So that was like that was my story of how I kind of figured it out. It took me a
Right
while.
on. That is cool. So you get them, you relate to them, you bring them into a room saying, "Hey, we want to get together with some other business owners," and then you bring in a speaker and what do you do? Just provide drinks and
No,
appetizers? Yeah.
nope, nothing.
No, nothing. Just bring them together.
Yeah, no,
Wow.
yeah, look, everyone's gonna tell you, and I had people that told me this. You have to go pay for space. You have to go get sponsors. You have to go pay for drinks. You have to, it's all bullshit, right? Like
Yeah.
you, we work with business owners. We know business owners don't care about that. They care about feeling good. They care about meeting good people, right?
Yep.
They care about learning. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's kind of all bullshit. You don't have to do anything other than be a good person and try to be helpful, you know?
Okay, so you bring them together, and then where does the OS conversation begin?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. So how, well, you got them into a 90 minutes. So where, how, what happens?
I think that this is a great question because I think that this is maybe at that 6 to 9 month mark was the inflection point of how I changed my mindset on this. I think that so we have to remember, and I had this epiphany that what we do is a very high trust, high ticket offering, right? So Somebody that's going to come with you on this journey is going to change their life. Like they're going to change their habits. They're going to go through a lot of pain. And they've eventually hit an inflection point that's causing them to do this, right? And so the most important thing to get somebody to want to work with you is that they trust you and that they like you, right? I think what I recognized was I was trying to push EOS on people before they even knew who I was. And so we're smart, we're business owners, right? We get like we know the moment someone's trying to solicit you, kick them out your door, slam the door, you'll never open that door for somebody ever again. So for me, what I recognized was that's not the way in, is to come with a, hey, I do EOS, this is what I do, because no one would want to have a second conversation with me. So all I've tried to do in building my business is get close to business owners, but just be have an open conversation with them, nothing to do with EOS, nothing to do with selling them, getting to know who they are, letting them get to know who I am. And then eventually, Kevin, how does it bridge? If they like you and they trust you, then they ask you what you do. And you
Right.
tell them, but it doesn't feel like you're selling them. It feels like you're telling them what you do because they're genuinely interested. So
Hmm.
I think that's how it bridges. But the change in mindset for me was that usually takes at least three conversations before somebody is actually willing to go deeper with you on what you do, right?
Right.
So it's
Right.
patience.
And so these get-togethers, would there also be business owners who are now doing EOS with you, who now talk about it to other business owners that are in the group
Yeah.
without any kind of a influence from you at all? So that's the secret.
Yeah. 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 No, yeah. But it, I think it just takes time because when I just started doing this stuff, it was literally just a happy hour. Um, and then from there, it was, well, this is great, but it's not really giving people a reason to drive an hour away. Like someone that's 15 minutes will show up. But how do I get people an hour away? And then from there, it was, okay, well, what if I get a really good speaker? Not even a speaker, a business owner who people would know, like a name recognition. The first speaker I had was somebody
Oh yeah.
that you would recognize, right? Um, and so from there, the people that showed up to that event, they're like, "Holy shit, I love that. That was amazing. I've never heard the under the hood story of somebody that successful." And yeah, then they started telling their friends. But like it started with four events of just happy hours to even have another clarity break of like, how do I up level this? So I wasn't seeing
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's and then you could say so and so is going to come and speak on who took his family business and we'll be talking on, a particular part of like family business and what his challenges were and stuff. So you get a
100%.
lot of yeah.
100%.
That
Yep.
that is really smart. Man, you are one smart guy.
I'm
I'll
not
tell you that.
smart.
Oh yeah,
I'm
you
not
are.
smart.
And, like I read James Clear's book 2 years ago, and I went, "This guy's genius." Like, just he changed my life because what? Did he change my life? I already knew process was important, but I just remember driving down the highway and I was listening to his book, and I talked to myself in the car. Right, so he goes, what's more important, a goal or a process?" And I was like, "A goal." Tony Robbins, the whole thing. Yeah, you got to know where you're going, kind of thing. He goes, "No, it's process." That 12-year-old girl who's practicing with a coach on a proven process this morning at 5 o'clock. Uh, Fast forward 10 years later, she's on the top podium at the Olympics getting a gold medal. This morning, that wasn't her goal. She was following a process. And I just went, wow. And then I saw him at the conference and his talk was his book. But like, you speak very well. Like the way you just went through the ideas. I don't have a lot of questions for you because it's exactly what I wanted to get out of this conversation in terms of, um, you know, the mind. You really got yourself into the mind of a business owner, and you're so accurate on it, right? They can go to any cocktail. They get invited 5 times a day to go to a cocktail hour sponsored by such and such insurance company or
Yeah,
so and
sure.
so accountants and all that stuff. But to just genuinely want to feel their pain, which nobody else experiences, you know, and and empathy. The empathy part of this is really cool.
Yeah,
Well,
it
that's
is.
neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Kevin, one thing you said that I think I just want to say out loud because I think it's probably the most misunderstood thing that's the most important thing or what has been for me is it's so easy to be frantic. I think at the beginning, and I still am frantic. Like even today, I'm like, how do I get more leads, right? It's so easy to be so in the weeds to not recognize the thing that's holding you back. And I think, so you said it, the process thing with James Clear. For me, the process of taking a clarity break every single month is probably the most important thing you can do as a new implementer and really like pressure test the things you're doing. Are these things moving me towards the goal? Are these things moving me towards more deep conversation with business owners? Like, are
Yeah.
these things the things that I'm great at? Like, I think if I was to start all over again, I would put a clarity break on my calendar every week for an hour and ask myself some big questions because I think getting to a successful sales function in your business is really about just iterating and killing things that don't work and learning about yourself and then moving to the things you do great. But if you
Mhm.
take a quarter or 6 months to learn these lessons, it's going to take you much longer than if you take a week or a month to reflect, recalibrate, and grow. So I didn't take my first clarity break until 6 to 8 months or something. And from there, I had my first breakthrough. So I think the process itself should be stop, pause, reflect, kill things, add things, change things, but do that often. I mean, that's what I would do if I had to do it all over again.
Yeah. I mean, it makes so much sense. When I think about things in my past that have been successful, like in terms of the different careers I've had. First, I latched on to somebody who's really successful. Success, like you said, phone successful business owners come in and speak. They're not going to come and speak unless you ask them. But successful people, I took a seminar 35 years ago, which really changed my life. And the guy goes, successful people will always help you. You just need to ask. But if you don't ask, they just assume you know what you're doing, right? You look at really good golfers, they're not going to give you any advice on your swing unless you ask, because they don't know if
100%.
they don't know if they know that if you're not ready for the lesson, it's a waste of time.
I,
And
I love that. We
yeah,
like overblow the risk in our mind of asking, right? Like the downside is someone says no and you move
yeah,
on with your day. And the upside is you get this amazing speaker or person or someone in your life that you never thought was possible.
yeah.
So I think
Oh,
just do it.
we in our part of the country, we have a billionaire who owns all the car dealerships, owns all the grocery stores. The guy has just started from scratch, from nothing, right? And I phoned him to come and talk to a group of business owners. I got a secretary and an assistant. And what's funny is like this thing about phoning successful people, they'll phone you back. And so Donna's assistant goes, "Okay, I'll tell him you called." And I said, "Yeah, whatever." So I hang up and thought, well, that's the end of that. And 15 minutes later, my phone rings and it's him. So I pulled over before I answered. And he goes, "Hey, Kevin, Jimmy Patterson calling. What can I do for you?" And I said, "Oh, can you come and talk to some business owners?" And they're like, they want to help, like they'd love to help, but
Yeah.
people won't do that, and there's so many people that have such great stuff to share. I think that's a fantastic idea. Well, I mean, like when I was doing an interview with Mike Payton last year on speaking, on talking, I interviewed him and a couple of other people for talking. What do you do in your talk, right? How do you get talks? And he made a great point. He goes, Kev, I went back to 2009 when I started, or 2008 when I started with Gino. What I should have done in Minnesota was instead of doing my own talk, I should have brought Gino in, paid his fee, brought him in, And now I tell people, if you got an event that you can put together, get Mike Payton, get Gino, get somebody in there that, or somebody who can never be like, if you're on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast, I can never be a competitor for you, right? Hire somebody who's on the other side of the continent who can't be a competitor for you to come in, who's a really good speaker. Like you said, there's people out there doing talks and they're not good speakers, and so they're
100%.
not doing us well. They're not doing our brand well. They're not doing themselves well. They're not doing that at all. So,
And
you know,
I would challenge those people to step back and really ask the question of how is that serving you? Because, a couple of people called me, Kevin, and asked me about these events, and they kind of said the same thing as you. Not, sorry, not as you. They said they all kind of asked the same thing, which was, well, why aren't you doing like an EOS workshop or like facilitating something. And I was like, I think, and I told him like, I think that you're thinking about it the wrong way, which is I run this event. Like you said, I put a good speaker out there. Now people know who I am and they know I'm credible, not because I'm speaking, but because I'm bringing the community together. So
Yeah.
what I'm thinking about is the next conversation I'm going to have with whoever attended that event, because now they'll know me and they'll want to talk to me. Not about EOS. I won't talk to them about EOS at all. It'll just be, hey, I want to learn more about your business, what's going on. And then the conversation after that, maybe they'll ask me what I do, but I'm not thinking about like how do I prove to someone why they need EOS in that first conversation. I'm using that first event as a way to build a relationship that will eventually lead me to a third or fourth conversation. And so I think your
Hmm.
point is right, which is like, why are we going out there and trying to just immediately sell somebody something the first time we talk to them when we know they're not going to work with you unless they like you, trust you, and are willing to venture on this incredibly difficult journey with you? So
Yeah.
I just think I think the community we all need to change our mindset around speed to sale and really focus on relationships first, right?
Hmm.
It's
Well,
hard
you
though.
know, when I in my sales days, I was a sales trainer, and when someone says, "Well, it's not working for me," I go, "Okay, give me your sales process." And from prospecting, first conversation, booking the meeting, doing the presentation, closing, follow-up service. And they say it's not working for me, but you go, all it takes is one of those things not to be working.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
my close has always been, and anything I've ever sold, my close. Well, first of all, I get the appointment by going, listen, Dan, I'm not going to allow you to make a decision on what we're talking about when we sit down because I want you to go away and think about it. Right. And so when I did really well in investing, what I do is say, okay, let's do the paperwork now. You keep the paperwork. I'm giving you a self-addressed envelope. You sign it and send it to me in a few days. I want you time to think about it. So that was consistent with what I said at the beginning, right? You're not going to be allowed, but you liked it. You signed the paperwork. In between that time, I'd send you a thank you card for giving me the time to present this and show you the value in it, right? You get the thank you card the next day, and then you mail the letter by the end of the week. You mail the documents by the end of the week. That was my process,
Hmm.
and so what's even more significant, what you pointed out, is these guys and these women who are business owners are sharp. They see people like us every day who say they're just trying to help, but then they break that 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 message by doing something like, okay, so now we just have to get your team into a room for 90 minutes and do a 90-minute meeting. And you just shot your whole integrity to hell because you said that you just wanted to bring them in and get to know them and help them, right?
Yeah.
And you're right
It's
about being in a rush. I had a client phone me last week. Say, Kev, I got a friend. He really needs help. He's a business owner and he wants to talk to you. So I phoned him, and same thing was I talked to him. I said, okay, his wife was there. She's the integrator, blah, 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 blah. It's a pretty good company, 60 people, and they're really doing well, which is nice in this economy. And so I said, okay, well, let's do a 90-minute meeting. I'll send you some dates. Okay. And that's all I ever say. Right. So I sent them some dates and then didn't get back next day. And I know if they don't get back the day after that, that there's something wrong. Right. So I phone him. I go, hey, everything okay? He goes, Kev, my wife doesn't want to be on the management team. She wants out of this. I got a CFO I need to fire, and I need to replace him with somebody really good. Hopefully, it can move into, the seat. Otherwise, it's just four of us in the room with this major problem. And I said, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put you in touch with Titus, and they're going to help you hire that person. And then as we go through that process, I'll check in with you, make sure everything's going because I'm really too busy to take on anybody till September anyway, which is not true, but I really don't want to anyway. But so it's nice to be in that position.
yeah.
But but also like you said, which resonates so loud is these people will become clients for life when you treat them that way. Where you go, it's not about me, it's not about doing this, it's about doing what's right for you and the business. They talk about that at EOS all the time, but you're actually living it, you know. And you can't say to somebody, I'm not going to let you make a decision And I tell people that at the 90, I don't do any of this hocus pocus at the end of a 90. I go, okay, so basically, Jake, I'm going to email you and you're going to talk to the team. I want you to be really serious about this commitment. And I'll get back to you with some dates tomorrow for focus day. And then if you want to proceed, we'll proceed. If we don't, that's it. Because I'm done. You've had your 90. And
Yeah.
that's all I said I provide. And I didn't. So, but
I
when you
love that.
break that promise by saying you're not going to be able to make a decision at 90, and then you're going, okay, so how does the team feel? Do you want to book a focus day? You've just destroyed your credibility with especially with our audience because they're involved with this stuff all the time.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's really,
that's
it
a
really is. I'm glad you're sharing that because I mean, even I'm learning from you on this one. I could do better at that too. But I think the point is you really kind of have to fight to protect your credibility throughout the journey. Because I think the natural inclination is to sell, but it's the
mhm.
exact opposite of what you should do because the person across the table, they're going to sniff it out. And the moment they
Yeah,
sniff it out, you're done. So,
yeah,
um, you just have to like really kind of fight that inclination early in the process and allow it to bloom, right? And really
yeah.
just focus on the long term.
And that's so hard for a young guy like yourself, right? Because you want to get this business going. So to stop, so I always say golf is like, why do I like it so much? It's like business, right? The minute you care, you're finished. And by care, what I mean is
Yeah,
the minute you become desperate and tighten up and you really want, this is the day where if you actually par the last hole, it'll be the best score ever. When you start thinking that way, you're not going to par it, right? It's just a wrong way to think. And that's the same thing with this, where what you have to master is here's Dan, and he's like, he desperately needs a new client, but you promised them it was just about it's just about relationships. You promised them and they're sharp. They're going to see right through you when you go.
100%.
Well, I know I invited you, so here's a little thing. Just drop your card in this bucket if you want me to phone you and do a 90-minute meeting.
Yeah, you're done. You're
You're
done.
done. Your credibility's gone. With those with those type of clients, the type of clients you want to deal with, your credibility's done. You know.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's really good, man. I'm so glad we spent time together, and thanks for forgiving me for this morning.
Yeah. Oh no, not at all. I was
Yeah,
gonna have somebody, show up at your residence and make sure you still had a pulse, but
yeah,
uh,
yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I had a
glad you're
pulse.
away.
I have a pulse every morning around 4:30, and I'm doing something, so I have no problem setting an appointment for 5:30 in the morning. But I'm just glad
Yeah.
we spoke because this has been really enlightening, and if you don't like, I am going to share it with the community when they ask about it. I'm
Yeah,
gonna what I'm
absolutely.
gonna do is just make a short YouTube video of this interview, and then I'm gonna say you need to watch this whenever you're talking to help first, right?
I
Help
appreciate that.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a dynamo assistant, by the way. That sounds like
Thank you.
you're getting everything together. That's fantastic. Good for you.
Yeah, she's amazing. I just brought her onto the team. She's amazing. So
Yeah,
that's the next evolution. But yeah,
I like thinkers, buddy, and you are a thinker.
thank you. Yeah, I
That's really
appreciate it.
cool.
You
All
you
right,
too.
all right, appreciate it. Talk to you later.
All right, Kevin.
See ya.